Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day because we're diving into a little bit more of the spirituality realm. Now, as you know, here at the Business of Happiness, we bridge all things science, mindset, biology, your body, your nervous system, and a little douse of magic and spirituality. And the reason why we're going there this morning is because I had an experience with a client who was a very successful orthodontist. She has been challenged recently with a very difficult decision, and she has regulated her nervous system, and she has done all the mindset work. And where we're landing is her need to allow for the spiritual realm. And let me explain what I'm talking about. She has this very difficult decision of leaving dentistry, leaving orthodontics. She has worked in dentistry for almost 2 decades, and she's the owner of her own very successful orthodontic practice. And it really is the classic story. She did exactly as she was told when she was younger. She did very well in school. And everyone said to her, oh my gosh, you have to be a dentist. Her community values dentistry in a very high way, having the doctor in front of your name. And she thought, well, that's what you do. When you do well in school, there are a couple options, and one of them is doctor. And that's the one that everyone says I should do. So here I go. I'm going to be a dentist. And then as that young teenager went into college with that very focused attention on going into dental school, she just kept passing every test, doing really well, got into a great dental school, and did really well in dental school, and went on to a really competitive orthodontic residency program and did really well, and kept doing what everyone else thought really she should. And the next thing, as you know, she thought, well, I should open my own practice. And of course, she was amazing at it. She put her mind to it, and did everything she was told, and now she's running this beautiful orthodontic practice. And what she realized is she feels numb. She feels numb. What she's left behind is a passion she's always had for photography. And she incorporated photography in her dentistry, and she plays with her camera on the weekends, but she has always longed to do more with her photography. And she's at this impasse right now where she really has tried to blend the two passions, blend what she's really good at and what she really is passionate about. And she's worked on this for the past few years. And now she's just getting this calling that she really wants to just let go of the dentistry and go into photography. And it doesn't matter how many positive affirmations you say. If that is pulling on your heart and it won't give up, if there's that whisper inside of you that says, I need to do this with my life, this is true to who I am, that is the whisper you cannot ignore. Because when we ignore it, that is the numbness setting in. That is when we self-abandon. And her challenge really is not so much the choice. For her, it's an easy decision. It's clear. But it is, why have I made this mistake so many years ago? Beating herself up around constantly saying yes to other people's expectations, what other people thought she should be doing. And I'm bringing this story to you today because there's this beautiful phrase in the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a Hindu scripture that dates back to the 2nd or the 1st century BCE. And it really is considered, and it is a beautiful text, by the way. It's written so beautifully, translated into English. It's so poetic. But one of the things that the Bhagavad Gita says is, it is better to live your own Dharma imperfectly than to live someone else's perfectly. And what if we didn't make her journey wrong? What if every step along the way has brought her to this point here today to give her the resources and the fuel, the knowledge of what she wants now? And I bring this story to you because I invite you to take a look at that in your own life. Wherever you're challenged, it's probably not as dramatic as leaving dentistry. Maybe it is, but maybe you're challenged just with a decision. And looking back over your life, you've always made other choices in opposition to that decision. And today you're sitting here thinking, oh, I think I might do a complete 180. But what does that mean about me all along? And what if we didn't make all those other decisions wrong? I even saw this morning, I haven't listened to the full podcast episode, but I saw Mel Robbins posting about a podcast episode she had just produced about her breast implants. And she, I guess, got breast implants at one point. And at the time, that's what she thought she wanted. And then as time went by, she realized, oh my gosh, I've made a mistake. And the choice, the decision to have them removed was a big, painful one. But the pain and the suffering, I argue, lies more in the pain we feel for the younger version of ourselves who abandoned herself in that moment, who said yes to dentistry when she didn't actually know, when that actually wasn't her passion, who said yes to the breast implants when that actually wasn't what she wanted, she was doing it for someone else. That heartache that we feel for her, what if we just give it a beautiful dose of love and understand that each one of us has our own journey and none of them are perfect? Remember that line again. It is better to live your own Dharma imperfectly. And for those of you who don't know what Dharma is just your path, your calling, your purpose. And I personally believe that each of our purpose in life is to live this life, to experience all those things, to make the mistakes, to make the choices, and then wake up and say, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't the right choice. I actually want something different. It's in that discovery that we learn what we want, who we are. And it's so interesting in so many religious texts. We see the same wisdom coming through over and over again. I saw that in Paul's letters to Galatians 6, 4 through 5, he said each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. Isn't that interesting? It's our journey that is personal to each one of us. You get to change your mind. In fact, it's the changing of your mind that is living out your purpose. That's what's being true to you. Let it be okay that you made a choice in the past, that you thought a certain way, and now you have new perspective. That's growth. That's growth. And I think often what holds us back from saying yes to that new desire, that newly identified, newly clarified awareness about what matters most to us, is that we're beating ourselves up or feeling guilty or shameful for the previous decision, that it wasn't in alignment. That it wasn't in alignment with what we really wanted. I think that's also a reason why so many of us have trouble saying, I'm sorry. Like, there's nothing more beautiful and connecting than hearing from someone who has hurt you or wounded you the words, I am sorry. I mean, instant bond. Instant bond. We see this from psychological research. These neonatologists did this great study on connection and bonding with parents to children. What they found was parents who were very aware of their baby's needs and constantly showing up when the baby was crying, they created a deep bond and a sense of trust, right? That baby grew up to hold great trust. But what they also realized was there's a deeper sense of trust that was formed in a child who did not trust someone formally, and then that person came and said, I'm sorry. I see it differently now. There was a new level of understanding that was created in that relationship. And all that takes is giving ourselves permission to have been imperfect, to have lived this life and walked this journey imperfectly. Imagine this. 3 days away from work, 3 days away from your regular life, from your family, from the day-to-day hustle and bustle, to just rest and reconnect with you. Here's the truth. Nobody knows you like you do. Nobody knows the joys and the sorrows and the fears and the frustrations and the stresses and the overwhelm and the exhaustion and your patience and your team and your family. Nobody knows what you're going through better than you. Nobody knows what brings you joy and fuels you and fulfills you. Nobody knows your dreams and desires like you do. And the secret to how to access the beautiful wisdom inside of you, the guru inside of you, waits for you at the Empower Her retreat. This incredible retreat happening this October 17th through 20th is an opportunity for you to fall back in love with yourself, to identify your directional compass, and to lean into trust, self-trust, the trust of that inner wisdom. www.empowerherretreat.org. Join us there. Sign up. There are only a few spots left. This is your opportunity to change the direction of your life. And the moment you give yourself that permission, it lightens everything, because then your new decisions are possible, entertainable. If we give ourselves permission to make new choices, how wonderful it would be to just pivot at any point. And what a beautiful business strategy as we're growing our businesses. Well, we were going in this one direction, and then suddenly we decided to pivot, and we gave ourselves permission. We didn't beat ourselves up for the old way. Or even to hear feedback from your patients or your team when they say one thing. I know for me, in my ortho practice, before I had an understanding of my own worthiness and of my own path, and that my path could be imperfect, it would terrify me to get a bad review or a complaint from a patient. Immediately my body went into fight or flight. But what if that was just data that informed us we could make a new decision? And what if we didn't lay blame or judgment on our former selves who did our best with what was available to us? I mean, isn't that the truth? Don't you wake up every morning trying to do your best? And you're only capable in doing so based on what you have available to you at the moment, whether it's a certain amount of money, a certain amount of knowledge, a certain amount of experience, a certain amount of data. We do our best with what we have. And when we know better, we can do better. When we know different, we can do different. Let's take the judgment off the path and the journey, because this means that your journey will not look like anyone else. It won't look like anyone else's. Your practice will not look like anyone else's practice. Your parenting will not look like anyone else's parenting. And we see this over and over again in all the spiritual texts. I was also researching about the Old Testament. So what does it look like in the Jewish faith? And I found this line in Deuteronomy 30, 11 through 14, says, "Now what I'm commanding you today is not too difficult for you or beyond your reach. It is not up in heaven, so that you have to ask who will ascend into heaven to get it and proclaim it to us so that we may obey it. Nor is it in the sea, so that you have to ask who will cross the sea to get it and proclaim it to us so we may obey it. No, the word is very near you. It is in your mouth and in your heart so that you may obey it." Right there, we speak again to the wisdom within ourselves, the Dharma, the path that we get to live. And that Dharma, that path, is informed by our desires, by our choices and desires. It's not informed by something outside of you. Your path, your journey through life, is not dictated by anyone outside of you. This line in Deuteronomy says it's not dictated by the heavens. It's not dictated by the ocean, something deep in the ocean, something you have to excavate or find, or you have to ask someone to find for you. It's dictated by your own heart, your own desires. And each step of the way, we get new clarity. I often think about life as being this beautiful buffet table, right? And we get to stand in front of the buffet table, you know, those all-you-can-eat or buffets. I'm thinking more like this wedding. I went to a wedding in dental school with my husband once, and oh my gosh, there was way too much to eat. And you knew that when you walked in. There was just too much food already. And so you really had to start picking and choosing. So I remember there was a sushi stand, and I tried a couple pieces of sushi. I thought, oh no, I love sushi usually, but this is not what I feel like eating tonight. Okay. So then I went over to another place, and there was this beautiful noodle buffet, noodle station. And I tried some new udon noodle dish, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to fill me up too quickly. I got to stop here. So I went on to a seafood stand. And that's what life is like when we don't lay judgment. When I didn't make myself wrong for trying a piece of sushi or trying some noodles. It was just an adventure. Like, what do I feel like doing now? What is exciting to me? What is my heart asking me for? And giving myself permission that my journey doesn't look like anyone else's. It also means that you cannot make a mistake. That all you have to do is listen to your heart. Even if listening to your heart is uncomfortable, you're learning how. Because I remember a time where I had self-abandoned for so long that I didn't even know what my heart was asking for. I didn't know what I liked. And I literally started, this sounds so ridiculous, but I remember knowing, okay, Tarryn, I've been listening to what everyone else has been telling me to do for so long. I have got to figure out what I want. And I remember going for a run and thinking, where do I feel like running? Even running to me, I had been dictating by an app at the time that was telling me how far and where to run, the distance and the time, and I was really regimented about it. And I thought, what do I feel like doing today? And that is literally how I started, just playing with running. And I'll never forget the first time I was running. It's in Massachusetts. We were living in Massachusetts at the time. Many of you know the North Shore of Massachusetts above Boston. It was in the Beverly area. I just started taking turning wherever I wanted. I thought, I have my phone with me. If I get lost, I'll find my way out. And oh my gosh, I found a neighborhood I had never seen before that was so adorable. And that excitement in me of discovery simply by saying yes to me, saying yes to my heart. And it feels so silly, but it really started shaping my decisions in my practice, my decisions in my personal life. I started listening to myself and saying, wow, what is it I feel like doing if I didn't base it on what someone else expected of me? And if I didn't make it wrong when I used to listen to what other people told me to do? What if I just allowed for even that component to be a part of my path? Because nobody actually knows what you need. No one else is your guru. You are your own guru. And the only thing you need is permission to trust yourself, to trust your desires, to acknowledge your desires, to know you are worthy of your desires. And this is the point. Your desires are the whispers of your soul. What you want, what makes you feel good, is what guides you to your next decision. They're unique to you, and that's why each of our paths is different. And it's okay that your path has been messy, because that's actually what's required. So if we were to bring this down to 3 fundamental components, I would say number 1, most important thing is slowing down long enough to listen to yourself, to ask yourself, what do I want? And isn't that such a beautiful, beautiful outcome when we give ourselves permission for our paths to be imperfect? Because when we don't need it to be perfect, we actually leave room for slowing down. And how beautiful that my client has this moment of awareness where she's like, wow, this whole time, 2 decades, I've been living a life somebody else wanted for me. Let that be okay, because what that did was it forced her to slow down and stop and say, wait a minute, let's just check things for a moment. Is this really what you want? So that permission to slow down is such a critical component. And then number 2 is knowing and believing that you are enough, that you are worthy of your dreams, that when you get that little spark, that little desire in your heart that says, you know what? My practice has always done it this way, but it would thrill me to do it this way. I'm really excited about this component, but man, wouldn't it be exciting to try something else? I did this just this year, by the way. I have been serving incredible women, powerful women in dentistry and medicine for years, really loving leaning into the feminine, really loving exploring feminine power because, in medicine and dentistry, we traditionally, as women, have really leaned into our masculine, which, by the way, is so beautiful. But I've really thought, how can we bridge that, the feminine and the masculine, so that we can love ourselves more in this journey? And just this year, around February, I had this little spark of what would it be like to run an all-men's group? I've served men individually, one-on-one as clients. I've never run an all-men's group. And just a few weeks ago, I graduated my first all-men's group. And let me tell you what an enormously rewarding experience that was. I loved it. Men in dentistry surprised me like you can't even believe. The amount of vulnerability they showed, the courage to say how they felt, to have moments of breaking down, of feeling their feelings, to share their fears with one another, to support one another so beautifully. I loved it all. And what if I had made myself wrong any point along the way? When that was just speaking to my spirit, something I just wanted to try. It felt good in the moment. And look how incredibly I was able to serve the people who were there. Not only that, but enjoy the journey. Our paths are imperfect. Your following your Dharma is so much more powerful when you accept the imperfection of it, but you acknowledge your worthiness of it. Knowing and believing that you are enough, even if something feels wildly different from the choices you've made before. And then I think the third component is giving yourself permission to pursue, to take action on your dreams, to say yes to you. Because when you say yes to you, beautiful things happen. People around you benefit. You are so much more powerful than you think you are. And your beautiful journey through life is still developing, unraveling, unfolding. There's still so much more for you to experience and learn about you. And remember, when you feel good, that is when you can do good. Bye-bye. Hey, beauty, if you enjoyed this episode, then like and subscribe to the show and receive this beautiful message of empowerment, remembering what you are capable of and the purpose you serve in this world every single week. And if you know of a colleague who needs this message, share this episode with her. This is how we raise the collective in healthcare, reminding one another and supporting one another. Community is the answer. This is how we grow it. And lastly, I invite you to a phenomenal in-person event this October 2024, the Empower Her Retreat, exclusively for women in medicine and dentistry on the beach. It will change your life. And I cannot wait to see you there. Check out the details in the show notes and have a phenomenal day remembering that you are enough.